Hi, this is Carol Baskin, and this is episode 16 of Cat Chat. Today we're going to be looking at Bengali the tiger goes free and Flavio the tiger goes free. And we don't mean that the tigers escaped, but it was really, really wonderful that these old tigers finally got a chance to get their turns in the vacation rotation enclosure. If you go to our YouTube video sites at bigcattv.com or at youtube.com/DailyBigCat, you can see the videos that we're going to be showing here. But for right now, I'm just going to show you the images. This is Flavio rolling on his back, looking up at the sky, going down to the lake, playing in the lake. It was kind of interesting when he went down there. The pools that he's had in the past have always just been these shallow concrete pools, and so when he felt the bottom was getting deeper and deeper, he stopped because he's never been out in water over his head, and he backed his way out. So he was a little bit nervous about the way this whole thing felt. Even though he's the world's oldest tiger, you can see that he really is in very good shape and was looking quite alert in this image. There he is, peeking over his log. I think he felt safe laying behind the log. That way he could look out in every direction in front of him anyway, and know that he could see what was out there, but it couldn't see, or they couldn't see him. You can imagine what this must be like for tigers who have spent their entire early years in circus wagons, and then in the enclosures at Big Cat Rescue, which are 1,800 to 2,400 square feet, most of them. But because they're tigers and they could escape, we have to put a roof on their cages, and so they've never had an unobscured view of the sky. And this, for us, was the most wonderful part of this cage, was the fact that it didn't seem so much like a cage, and they could actually look up at the nighttime sky. They could watch the sun move all the way across and set in the evening and never have to look at that through cage wire. I tell you what, I cried when both of them went out there. It was just so marvelous to see them enjoying themselves. I left this picture at a distance like this rather than zooming in close because I wanted to show how big and gorgeous this cage is. But if you can see him licking his nose, it was a rather cute little image. I may have to go back and repost that as a close-up as well. Looks like we drove him out there and dropped him off in this picture. Those tracks were left because the last bit of work that we did on the vacation rotation enclosure, it was just raining every single day, and so we had worked very hard to get it done so that these old cats would have a chance to go out there before their time was up. There was recently, on a wholly different topic, there was recently a case of rabies in a stray cat, and the Humane Society was wanting us to share with people that this was not a cat that was in a feral cat population that was being managed. This was not a cat that was being trapped, neutered, and returned. If it had been, it would not have contracted rabies because it would have been vaccinated. So it was just yet another reason why people that are involved in trap, neuter, and return of feral cats are so important to us, because they are making sure that the feral cat population out there are not rabies vectors, and they certainly need our support. On August 5th, the USDA published this in the Federal Register, and we were really, really excited to see this finally happen. What they are doing is asking for comments about whether or not it should be legal to pet cubs, and this includes not only big cat cubs, but also bear cubs, and I think primate infants. And they're going to be taking comments up until October or something here. And so we're asking everybody to go to bigcatrescue.org/cubs or bigcatban.com, and right there you will see 3 easy steps to take. One is to contact USDA and let them know that there are no circumstances under which people should be allowed to pet these baby animals. And 2, there will be a easy to send letter to your member of Congress to support a bill that we currently have pending that would ban the private possession of these animals, and also would ban the cub petting, which is, this cub handling is the main reason that there are so many of these cats being born and discarded. So this bill that we have before the House and the Senate right now would end that. And then the third part is to ask the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service why they still haven't rescinded the generic tiger loophole. That's been going on for 2 years now. They've gotten 15,000 comments in support of rescinding it, and they need to just do it. So if you go to bigcatban.com, you'll be able to act on this one, on the congressional bill, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, all with a couple of easy clicks. These are the links that you would go to if you didn't take the easy link, which was bigcatban.com. If you haven't seen the release video for for Copter and Gator, that just came out in the last couple of weeks, and it's really good. It shows you the release, and then it goes back and it gives you the backstory on those 2 cute little bobcats that we released this spring. We had a celebrity visit by Luigi Baricelli, and he is known as the Brad Pitt of Brazil. When you see his image here, you'll understand why. In Brazil, they don't allow people to have these kinds of animals in their backyards as pets, and they don't have them in circus acts, and they just don't abuse them the way they are abused here in the United States. And he was so appalled at the stories that he heard that he offered on the fly to do a nice PSA for us. So he stood right here in front of Jumanji, gave us a really nice testimonial that we taped in English and also in Portuguese, in hopes of reaching people of his own native tongue as well. And if you want to learn your Portuguese, you can play those 2 back to back until you figure it out. The Captive Primate Safety Act has been introduced, and it will prohibit the interstate commerce in monkeys, apes, and other primates. Born Free USA, the Jane Goodall Institute, the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, and International Fund for Animal Welfare have all supported this bill, and Big Cat Rescue does too. Even though it doesn't have anything to do with big cats, other than there is a provision in there that would actually help with the cats. It's just wrong. It's just wrong to be breeding primates and bears and big cats and all of these other exotic animals just so people can pay to have their picture made with them or pay to play with them. There's a story here about when I was 9 years old, and I was up in a tree next to our house. It was a big pine tree, and I love the pine trees because you could just almost take them like a spiral staircase all the way up into the top branches. And I was up there watching planes take off and land at the Charleston airport. My father was a pilot for Governor Arch Moore there, and I was just bored out of my mind. And so I remember asking God, never let me be this bored again. Well, you have to be careful what you ask for, because I don't think there's been a boring moment since. This day was one of the weirder days. At 1:24 in the morning, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office called me, but my ringer was off. And so they called the operations manager, Gail, and said that a caller had reported that there was a white tiger loose on Van Dyke Road, and they wanted her to see if our tigers were all here. Gail did the rounds even though we only have one white tiger, just to be sure that all the cats were accounted for. Especially since we have this new big Asian rotation enclosure, we wanted to make sure everybody was there, and thankfully she didn't bother me with it. She just let me sleep when she was able to see all of the cats. At 8:52, 8:56, and 9 o'clock a.m., I get and miss 3 calls back to back from Tallahassee, but I'm out cleaning litter boxes and the caller didn't leave a message, so I'm unaware until just now that these calls were in my recent calls list. Probably the Florida Wildlife Commission, because the 850 area code sounds like it would have been them. At 9:06, I get a call and also miss it from the Homestead area, which is 305-247-8000. And they didn't leave a message at that time, but I see that the same number did leave a message at 1:25 a.m. saying that they were a deputy from the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department reporting a white tiger sighting on Van Dyke Road in northwest Tampa. I find it odd that the sheriff's deputy in Tampa would have a Homestead area code, so I call the real Hillsborough County Sheriff. Tell them who I am and about the call, and the captain said they did get such a call last night, but he has no idea who called me just now or why they would have a Homestead area code on their phone. No one else has reported the white tiger, and we all just figure it's a drunk or a prank caller. Our enemies, the people who abuse big cats for a living, think it's funny to annoy us and the local police with their stupidity on a regular basis. I told him that we have a new high-powered dart rifle if they do see the cat, and we would be happy to help them capture the cat alive. I texted Gail after the call, and that's when she told me that she had been called in the middle of the night and had done her head count. At 11:11 a.m., I get a call from 813-735-93XX, and it's a young man who's telling me that he was the caller to the sheriff last night, and that he had been at Big Cat Rescue with his girlfriend and hoped that he had not got us in trouble. I told him that all of our cats were in cages, so there was no trouble to be in. He told me that he loved Big Cat Rescue and that he was sober when he saw the white tiger running along the side of Van Dyke Road at Lakeshore. He said that he often sees white-tailed deer along this stretch of road and that he's no big cat expert, but that was definitely a cat with a body about 5 feet long, and it was white. He said that after visiting Big Cat Rescue, he knows that people often have such pets, and he felt like it was important to let someone know it was running loose. He said he was really embarrassed to make the report because he could barely get up the nerve to even tell his girlfriend what he had seen. I told him he did the right thing. He said he checked the news the next morning, fully expecting a huge media blitz over the discovery of a white tiger, but was surprised that no one else seems to have seen the cat. I told him that it's pretty hard for a white tiger to hide, but if the owner knew the cat was out, maybe they had managed to round it back up. Unfortunately, there are thousands of big cats in private hands and very little government oversight. Curiosity got the better of me, so I called the Homestead number, and the person who answered was not a Hillsborough County Sheriff, but rather someone who runs a seedy little roadside zoo called the Everglades Outpost, where they have been known for their cub petting display. I know the name because I have a photo of someone petting a full-grown white tiger at the Everglades Outpost. So now I'm wondering why the Everglades Outpost would call me, pretending to be a Hillsborough County Sheriff's deputy, reporting a loose tiger in Tampa when they operate a zoo 200 miles away. At 2:30 p.m., a few hours after reporting this to USDA and the Florida Wildlife Commission, my inspector says that the sheriff's office will often mask the area code of their cell phones, and it is likely just a coincidence that the number on my phone matches the Everglades Outpost. Apparently, there were 9 Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office deputies, 1 helicopter with 2 occupants, and 3 Florida Wildlife Commission personnel involved in this whole white tiger sighting. A huge waste of taxpayer dollars, and yet another reason why the U.S. needs to ban the private possession of big cats. Not that there was a privately owned cat involved, but if it were not such a likely scenario, there would not have been such a huge number of people and resources called into action. So this was my response to my inspector. When I made these screenshots, I see what you mean. The sheriff's office main number is 813-247-8000, so perhaps it is just a coincidence that the fake area code 305 attached to that same number, 247-8000, just happens to be a place, the Everglades Outpost, 200 miles away with a white tiger petting scheme. What are the odds of that? Okay, so it sounds like this was all just some local report. That's a lot less suspicious to me then. Here are the screenshots of the calls. I can't figure out how to save the voicemail to send it to you, but if it really was a Hillsborough County Sheriff's deputy, then you don't need it. 5:18 that night, a frantic woman calls and asks if I can tell her the name of their local big cat rescue, because there are 2 black saber panthers under a bridge in Burbank, California. Is there a full moon out there? These next 2 are videos, and you really should take the time to see them. It's called Africa Con in Conservation, and what it talks about is how all of the cub petting in Africa enables canned hunts of big cats. These are each an hour long, so it takes a while to watch them, and some of the footage is really painful to see. But I think it's so important for people to watch these, because I can't tell you how many times interns or volunteers have come to us and just blathered on about how they just can't wait to go to Africa so they can help raise the baby lions and put them back in the wild. And that is just such utter nonsense. I can't believe that people that even come to Big Cat Rescue could be so misled by such an idiotic thing. But I guess not everybody spends their whole life researching this sort of thing, so maybe they don't know. Apparently they don't know. But you can't watch these 2 investigative reports without figuring it out. It's very obvious that every time you're petting cubs in South Africa, you are just enabling and enriching the canned hunt operations, because those cats, when they get bigger, are used in the walk with lions schemes, where people think they're walking around with a bunch of adult cats when it's really just some youngsters, but they're 300 pounds, so they look like they're adults. And then when they're big enough that they have the nice beautiful manes that they can be shot, that's when they go out into the canned hunts, where people shoot them in a fenced area for sometimes as much as $50,000 per cat. And females then are sent back into breeding more of these cubs to be used. This really amazed me. I've always felt like the zoos are not doing what they claim to be doing. They say that they're an ark and that they're saving animals for future generations. But I really think as long as you can pay $10 to go to the zoo, you're never going to spend that $10 on saving wildlife for these animals to live in the wild. And even though I knew that there was an increasing number of people who feel this way, I was really startled to see that when this poll came out on CNN, 90% of the people agreed that U.S. zoos should be closed down. And I'm going to go right now and see what those numbers look like now. Time to close its zoos. Yes, it's probably going to recognize, yeah, it's still over 90%, which is pretty amazing. I think we've come a lot further than we even dreamed we had. There's another great video. It's about 7 minutes long, and you'll find this one at youtube.com/DailyBigCat. And it's just kind of 7 minutes of walking around the sanctuary, some of the footage that I took when Bella was being examined for a mammary mass that she has, and you can play that on your own time later on. More good news. El Salvador votes to ban wild animals in circuses. It's the latest Latin American country to progress to ban wild animal in circuses under the reform of its wildlife conservation, which was passed on Friday. Once approved into law, El Salvador will join Colombia, Costa Rica, Ecuador, Paraguay, and Peru, who have all introduced nationwide prohibitions on the use of wild animals in circuses. This campaign was led by Circus Sin Animal Salvador and supported by Animal Defense International, I think is what ADI stands for, South America. Feral Cat Day is coming in just 65 days. It'll be October the 16th, so what are you going to do for Feral Cat Day? It's a whole lot of ideas here for you. And this would be on today at Big Cat Rescue, August 12th. Shark Week started, I think, August the 5th, and Discovery had asked us to do a promotional video for them. And so this was Chris's efforts on that. This one you'll find at bigcattv.com, and just look for Shark Week video. It's pretty funny. I've been trying different ways to get people to care enough about some of these issues that we're trying to promote that would end the trade in big cats, and it would end the abuse of these cubs. It would end the U.S. trade in these cats for their parts and as props. And so I realized that an awful lot of the stuff that we do is the same stuff we've always done, where lots of sad pictures, we show where these animals have been, we show how wonderful it is when we rescue them, we play the sad music, and then we play the happy music. And to a certain extent that has certainly worked. We have 65 million views on YouTube at the bigcattv.com site, and I think we're over 97,000 fans on Facebook now. And our website is getting something like 1.75 million visitors a year, new visitors a year. But there's got to be people out there that we really need to reach that I just haven't figured out a way to reach yet. So I've tried some different things, and I've been using Fiverr.com to do it. This one, Rednecks Know You Shouldn't Pet Tigers. If you go to Big Cat Rescue, today at Big Cat Rescue for August 10th, you'll find a video there. Well, you'll find two. You'll find Project Bobcat, which is a great video that we did not do. It was done by some people who are trying to save the bobcat in the wild, and it's really worth watching. And then this one, where it's a couple of actors who talk about how wrong it is to pet baby tiger cubs. And this thing's gotten over 1,000 views now, so I think it appealed to some people anyway. I'm very, very happy to see that one take off. I also did one with a De Niro impersonator, and it's gotten about 100 views so far. It was not as popular, although I thought this guy did just an amazing De Niro impersonation. August 8th, Howie and I went to Washington, D.C. This top photo here is Flavio. Jamie did a panoramic view of him enjoying his time out in the vacation rotation enclosure. And then below you can see Howie is meeting with the staff in Senator Nelson's office. We also visited with Representative Gus Bilirakis' aides, and what we were asking them to do was to support the Big Cats and Public Safety Act, which is H.R. 1998 in the House and Senate Bill S1381. There's Howie and I in front of the Capitol. You haven't really been there unless you have the picture to prove it. Howie and I standing in front of the Washington Monument. We hadn't been here in several months, and they've covered the Washington Monument in something that looks like solar panels, which is actually a really clever idea if that's what it is. It's always been kind of a two-tone structure because of the difference in the color of the marble as it wore over the years. Apparently they had mined it from different quarries, but now it's all the same interesting texture. It's hard to see it, but between Howie and I right there is the Capitol building. We were walking down the road toward it, and I suggested we take this picture, and this is Howie's very first selfie. I just included this picture of this quilt because I love those colors. That is just so beautiful. This is Gail and a couple of the interns. I think it's Patty and I can't quite tell who the other one is, maybe Chrissy. And what they're doing is giving Saber the leopard a big blue barrel. He loves his cardboard tubes that he gets as enrichment, but man, after it rains a couple of times, the tubes just turn to smush. So they wanted to give him something he could play in all the time. And play with it, I am sure he will. This one goes back to August 1st. I was rather shocked to hear, it's also where you'll find the Shark Week video, that China had hosted an international tiger conference. which is bizarre given the fact that China has been trying so hard to farm tigers to use their parts, saying that they feel like that would take the pressure off of wild populations, which is just ridiculous. It's good to know that they're still in the game and still talking about tiger conservation. And what they were talking about was making ecological corridors between China and Russia. Although, frankly, I can't help but wonder if that isn't to just suck Russian tigers across the border, since all of the Chinese tigers have been hunted to extinction. Wild tigers are estimated to number between 3,000 and 4,000 individuals across Asia. This number is down from roughly 100,000 a century ago, largely due to poaching and habitat loss. Countries working to increase tiger populations have set a goal of doubling current numbers by the year 2022. That would be us, the International Tiger Coalition. Conversely, it is that same year the World Wildlife Federation has pegged for tiger extinction if global conservation measures are not drastically increased. It was perhaps appropriate the symposium was held in Yunnan, as the province has a somewhat blemished track record when it comes to understanding and managing tigers. Just days before the preservation meeting convened, news broke that the city's wild animals park was allowing paying customers, including infants, to pet and pose with tiger cubs. This is the same zoo that instituted a tiger fishing attraction in 2006, and where a boy of 4 was mauled by a tiger 5 years ago. Also in 2008, a 6-year-old girl was killed by a pet tiger at the Kunming Zoo, while she posed for photographs inside the animal's cage. Violence between humans and tigers, however, is not a one-way street in Yunnan. A man of Xingzhishwabana was sentenced to 12 years in prison after he shot and ate an endangered Indo-Chinese tiger in 2010. I saw that Big Cat Rescue was the DailyBigCat on Care 2 that day too, which is pretty cool. It's been one of our more popular videos on BigCatTV.com. And if you go to this Today at Big Cat Rescue on August 1st, you can actually play the video right there. The USDA came up with new regulations for lions and tiger cages. USDA Animal Care issues new guidance to its inspectors regarding lion and tiger enclosures. USDA's Animal Care program has issued new guidance to its inspectors for evaluating the height of enclosures for lions and tigers at stationary facilities. This guidance is aimed at assuring that USDA inspections will be consistent when determining a facility's compliance with the Animal Welfare Act regulations. In light of several escapes that have occurred over the past few years, Animal Care evaluated fence heights and configurations at all USDA licensed facilities that have lions and tigers. These evaluations build upon Animal Care's 40-plus years of experience in inspecting facilities that house potentially dangerous animals and the program's deep understanding of each species' physical capabilities. Animal Care is the federal unit that enforces the Animal Welfare Act. This act sets standards for humane care and treatment that must be provided for warm-blooded animals that are exhibited to the public, bred for commercial sale, used in biomedical research, or transported commercially. Individuals or entities that operate facilities using animals in these ways are required to provide their animals with adequate housing, sanitation, nutrition, water, and veterinary care, and they must protect the animals from extreme weather and temperatures. When potentially dangerous animals are exhibited to the public for compensation, the federal regulations require that USDA licensed exhibitors ensure the safety of their animals and protect the viewing public from any contact with the animals. At Animal Care, ensuring the welfare of the animals we regulate is at the heart of everything we do. Well, you can tell who wrote that. I'm glad that they are coming out with some kind of standards for what you can keep a lion and a tiger in. Unfortunately, they are not requiring that these cages be any larger. They're only requiring that the cage walls be higher. I'm not going to read this whole thing to you, but if you go to Today at Big Cat Rescue, August 1st, 2013, you'll find all of the new regulations. And there's a bunch of them. And then there's a bunch of loopholes, which we know people will be exploiting at their earliest convenience. The owner of Elite Tampa Bay magazine contacted me, and we talked about how lions were being served in tacos, and he gave us a full-page ad and a full-page editorial that we were able to use to reach his customers. And I'm going to see if I can find our page here. It was like 30, I think. And there we are. Lions must be protected, not on the menu. At this page, you'll find out how cub petting is killing wild tigers. Again, this was another one of the videos that I did to try and reach people that we can't currently reach through our traditional methods. And I also posted the script for the video here as well. All of these links will be on, if you go to our website and search Cat Chat Show Notes, August 14, you'll find all of the links on this page. Bella the tiger had to have a biopsy done. We noticed that when she rolled over on her back, she was dripping a little bit of brown fluid from one of her teats, which tells us that she's probably got mammary cancer. But we brought in our vets, Dr. Wen there at the bottom left, and Dr. Justin Borstein, who's got his hand on Bella, and had them actually draw blood and do a biopsy on the mass and sent it in for testing. That's Jamie Veronica standing there on the right-hand side. She's my daughter. She's also our president. And she's using a V-shaped pole to hold Bella's head down. In the past, we always had to hold a 2x4 or something with our hands rather close to her face to make sure that if she woke up suddenly, which tigers sometimes do under anesthesia, that she does not bite the vet. And so this tool has been tremendously helpful in both applying a gentle pressure until we feel her move against it and keeping our hands well away from her mouth. In this picture, Dr. Wen is checking all of Bella's joints. She will be looking for any kind of creaky or cracky noises that she hears when she moves the joints, because all of these cats, when they get older and get arthritic, start creaking just like we do. And so we put them on glucosamine and give them things to ease their pain and to make their movement easier for them. Whenever we sedate a cat, it's usually because the cat's not doing very well. So one of the things that we almost always end up doing is giving them several bags of, well, depending on the size of the cat, but for a tiger, several bags of saline fluids. And that really helps perk them back up, especially if they've had kidney issues. So this is Gail making sure that the saline is dripping fast. This bag right here is pretty cool. The one that says Etho on it, I don't know if you can see my mouse here, but one of the toughest things about pumping several bags of fluids into the cat is squeezing the bags hard enough and for the whole duration of the procedure to get enough of those fluids under their skin. And so this bag has like a little squeezy thing, and it fills the bag up with air so that it squeezes the bag of saline inside it and makes it a whole lot easier than having to do that by hand. As you can see, we bring out all the little trays and everything that we might need to use while we're out there. And the woman standing with her back to me there in the ponytail is Barbara Frank. She came and brought us a bunch of stuff because we didn't bring everything that we needed. And then you can see Chris is filming Bella's procedure so that he can do a video later. Afterwards, they cleaned her all up to make sure that she didn't attract any flies. and then put her in this big green sling. This is new too, and it's a whole lot easier to carry her in this than in a tarp. A tarp risks ripping, and then you don't want to drop a 300-pound tiger. I think she's only 200 pounds and such. Underneath her, you can see there's a regular human type, I forget what they call that. It's not a gurney, but it's like a body board for carrying somebody out of an auto accident into the ambulance. So what they do is they put her in the sling so that they can make sure she doesn't slide off, and then use the board to actually give them a little bit more stability to pick her up. And then they had to carry her through a hole, so the board had to go. And it's not here, but if you watch the video, you'll see them taking her through one of the guillotine doors into an area that was going to stay shady, so that she would be in the shade as she woke up. It just annoys the heck out of me that the bad guys refer to us as terrorists when we take pictures or video of their abuse. And so this page, I thought, really did a wonderful job of explaining how you know when you're dealing with a person who's abusing an animal. And the way you can tell is when they call you a terrorist for photographing it. So if you go to our website, and you'll see this, how do you know if someone is abusing, is the name of this page. You can actually watch this video, which was so well done. It wasn't done by us. Chris does a fabulous job on our videos, but this was a very, very good video that talks about how many states have ag-gag laws, which are laws that prevent you from even exposing anything that these people are doing to farmed animals or to any kind of animal that's considered agricultural. We're governed by the USDA's Animal Plant Health Inspection Service, APHIS, and in all of the laws that we push for to protect cats, we have to go before the Agricultural Committee, which is typically made up of people who are pro-industry, and they don't want to hear about animal abuse, and they don't want to hear about protecting animals. And so these ag-gag laws are just popping up all over the country. So this video is really worth watching to see how that affects not only farmed animals, but the big cats as well. I also took some time to really lay out as simply as I could how cub petting violates the Endangered Species Act. And PETA had done an amazing comment to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service when one of these backyard breeders, Nick Skulak, was trying to get a captive bred wildlife permit, because the bad guys see the handwriting on the wall, and they're afraid that if we are successful in closing down the generic tiger loophole, and if we're successful in getting the USDA to not allow cub petting, and if we're successful in getting the Congress to not allow the private ownership of these animals, that the only places that will be allowed to breed exotic cats will be the big zoos, the accredited zoos, the zoos that are accredited by the American Zoological Association. And so what these backyard breeders are kind of testing the waters apparently to do is to see whether or not they could qualify for those same permits. PETA did a great job of explaining why there is no way on this earth that these people should be qualifying for the same permits that the AZA zoos get. But in the course of reading that, there were so many good pieces of material that I thought were worthwhile to put here that talk about why cub petting violates the Endangered Species Act. And this is another one that's really long, and probably I should not sit here and read the whole thing to you. But if you go to Why Cub Petting Violates the Endangered Species Act, or search for that on our website, you'll find this page that talks about all of those reasons. The Endangered Species Act defines taking, which you're not allowed to take tigers, as harassing or to attempt to engage in any such contact. And anybody who's ever seen these cub petting displays, how does anybody not consider that harassing? How do you take the cubs away from their mothers and have the cubs screaming and the mothers moaning and calling for them for days on end and not call that harassing or annoying them? That video is an oldie but a goodie. Be sure and play that while you're there. On the Cat Chat show notes for August 14th, you'll also find 5 common cat health problems. Those are for domestic cats. We try to include stuff that would be of interest to people who have domestic cats, which is probably most of our readership. And then Jeff went to an event that was hosted. It was called, hosted by the Royal Manticoran Navy. And these are people who officially honor Harrington, the guy who wrote, I forget the name of the book that he wrote. Oh, they would hate that. David Weber, I'm sorry. And so they celebrate the literary works of David Weber and the universe he created in his Honor Harrington series of books, which boast over 3 million copies in print. Mr. Weber has had more than 13 of his titles appear on the New York Times bestseller list. Shore Leave 2013 included such notable celebrities as William Shatner, who was James Kirk on Star Trek, Brent Spiner, who was Commander Data, Star Trek Next Generation, Amanda Tapping, Sanctuary Doctors Helen Magnus, Stargate G1 Atlantis Colonel Samantha Carter, and Saul Rubinek, Edie McClintock, and Gail Grayston, who are from Warehouse 13. Bet Jeff had a lot of fun at that. Those people are so much fun when they come here. They've been supporters for a long time. I had a page up on our website talking about some old cage material, old chain link material that we were giving away. And of course, whenever you're giving away really good stuff, people take it like that. So it was gone in a New York second. But I forgot to take the page down, and so months later, this woman contacts me and she asked me for the free resources that I was offering. Well, I didn't realize that's what she was asking for. I thought she was talking about our website. We set up an intranet website for all of our volunteers and staff to use where we communicate with each other. And so I have created a template for that, which is how we monitor, like how much food the cat's left behind, if they had poop, what it looked like, if there's anything that the vet needs to see. It's where we keep all of our training classes. All of our documentation is on this website. So what we did was I made a copy of that as a template that can be used for any kind of sanctuary. Anybody that's taking care of any kind of animals, it has all of the forms and everything all set up. It doesn't have the personal information that we have in there, but it has our training classes, and all they have to do is modify it to the type of animal. So anyway, I got into a long discussion with her before I realized that she was wanting chain link and I was trying to offer her an internet site. But in the course of it, we got to talking about interns and volunteers, and so I asked her if our people could come over and take a field trip. And so she was very nice and hosted them to come out and meet her parrots. I think I have some more pictures of that field trip. We try to do that with other local sanctuaries and rescue groups so that our volunteers and our interns get a chance to see other people who are doing good work. They're going to run into plenty of bad people out there, and sometimes you run into so many people that are just not taking care of the animals the way they should, that it kind of ruins their entire attitude toward people. They get to thinking there's no place good but Big Cat Rescue, and we want them to know that there are other good places. And so if you check out the FloridaBirdSanctuary.com, our people were pretty impressed with what they saw. They were also pretty horrified. And what horrified them was, I think there's something like 300 of these birds that have been abandoned by their owners. These animals, I don't know much about parrots, but I'm told that they can live to be like 50, 60 years old. They can outlive their owners, and frequently do. And they scream, and they make a lot of noise, and they chew right through metal, which is probably why they need more chain link. And they're they're just not meant to be kept in cages, and yet they can't be turned loose. They're not a native species. They can't be set free here or they'll wreck our environment, and they can't be taken back to the places where they came from because they'll just be trapped and resold again. So it's a horrible situation for these birds, and as sad as it was to see, I think it was really wonderful for our volunteers to see a whole different situation and to see that it's not just about lions and tigers being inappropriate pets, but that parrots really should not be bred for life in cages, or any bird for that matter. This is Gail and one of our interns, Andrea, feeding the birds when they went. We also try to make a donation to these organizations when we visit, because most of them are not as fortunate as we have been, and we try to do whatever little bit we can to make things easier for people who are doing good work. This was a great group shot, but it was so wide it wouldn't really fit on the page well enough to show all of the interns off well, so I had made a couple of short shots, and then there's the distance shot. There's Aaron and Joe and Brittany from left to right. Afraid I don't know the name of the parrot. I think that's a ringneck parrot. You can find out more at the Florida Exotic Bird Sanctuary. They are at Deacon Loop, Wesley Chapel, Florida, and their website is Florida, FLA, birdsanctuary.com. What are the pistols about? One of our volunteer committee members was rather upset when she saw that our girls were shooting guns, and I assured her that these were not real guns. These are dart guns, and what they're doing is learning how a really high-powered rifle works and giving them a sense for target practice, so that they can see that it's not just a matter of shooting, aiming up your little lines and shooting wherever the lines tell you, but you also have to take into account the weather conditions, if the wind is blowing, your distance from the target. And so having this hands-on training we thought would be very helpful to people who may end up working in the wild, where they have to actually tranquilize animals, or in law enforcement where they may have to recapture animals, or at horrible roadside zoos where they may have to recapture animals. We try to talk them out of that sort of thing, but unfortunately the only paying jobs for most people that love animals is to go into some abusive, exploitive industry. The only thing that we can hope is that once they leave here, they understand that these animals are sentient beings and they have their own agenda, and being in cages is not on the animals' agendas. This dart rifle is so high-powered that we had to make sure that we had a concrete wall back behind the target, because in some cases the darts went right through it. It's Jenna. Jenna has been an interesting intern. She's the first intern who has organized yoga classes for all of the other interns on a regular basis, so it's been nice. Jamie just could not resist putting Joseph's body on the head of a tiger, since people are so obsessed with the idea of a liger. I love this infographic. It talks about the healing power of cat purrs. There's a little known secret about cat purrs. Cats create purr vibrations within a range of 20 to 140 hertz, known to be medically therapeutic for many illnesses. Cat purring lowers stress. Petting a purring cat calms down your nerves. Cat purr can decrease the symptoms of dysphonia. I probably butchered that in both cats and humans. A recent study shows that cat owners have a 40% less risk of heart attack, lower blood pressure by interacting with the cat and hearing the purring sound. Purr vibrations help healing infections and swelling. Healing of bones. Frequencies of 25 and 50 Hz are the best, and 100 Hz and 200 Hz the second best frequencies for promoting bone strength. Healing of muscles, tendons, and ligament injuries. The vibrations are also helpful for healing soft tissue. I broke my toe last week, 2 weeks ago now, but it hurts so much I can't have the cat lay on it and purr because it's so bruised. There's an old veterinary adage that says if you put a cat and a bunch of broken bones in the same room, the bones will heal. I love that. The Environmental Investigative Agency put out a report called Expertise in Environmental Issues. The London-based Environmental Investigation Agency, EIA, is pleased to offer the expertise of its experienced, authoritative campaigners to journalists and writers covering environmental issues. EIA was established in 1984 to investigate, expose, and campaign against the illegal trade of wildlife in the exploitation of the natural environment, and has built an international reputation for its pioneering use of undercover techniques. I love the people at EIA. Working to uncover transnational organized environmental crimes such as the illegal trades in wildlife, timber, and ozone-depleting substances, EIA routinely employs secret cameras, hidden tape recorders, photography, fake front companies, false identities, and clandestine on-site visits to obtain hard evidence of crime. By seeking to identify and expose eco-crime and then alert governments, police, and customs, EIA has directly brought about significant changes in international law and the policies of governments, saving the lives of millions of rare and endangered animals, stemming flows of illegal timber, and putting a stop to the devastating impacts of environmental criminals. Their major achievements include bringing about an international ivory ban in 1987, stopping the illegal wild bird trade, putting an end to the smuggling of ozone-depleting CHC gases, promoting Indonesia's biggest ever crackdown on illegal logging, revealing the trans-Himalayan trade in big cat skims, spurring major internet companies to withdraw cetacean products, and playing a major role in bringing about the 2013 European Union timber regulation. EIA investigators are acknowledged experts in their respective fields, able to provide journalists with insightful background briefings and highly informed comment for both breaking news stories and deep background features. And then here's their contact information in case you would like to use them for one of your stories. I scrolled through all of their other people that they list as resources. One of my personal favorites is Debbie Banks. She's the head of their Tigers campaign, and she's on the Big Cat Coalition and also serves on the International Tiger Coalition. Her expertise is in investigations and advocacy, tiger and Asian big cat conservation issues, organized wildlife crime, Asian big cat poaching and trafficking, tiger farming, trade in tiger parts, and derivatives in traditional Chinese medicines, illegal trade in tiger skins and bones, trans-Himalayan smuggling routes. Debbie's been with the EIA since 1996, volunteering for a year before joining as a campaigner, and in 2001 became Tiger Campaign Leader. She's a member of the board of the Species Survival Network and chair of the Species Survival Network Big Cat Working Group. She has trained several investigators on the Tigers campaign since 1999 and has worked on projects and investigations in India, Nepal, China, Thailand, USA, Europe, and Japan. Debbie has a BSc in zoology and an MSc in conservation. So that wraps up our 16th episode of Cat Chat Notes, or our 16th episode of Cat Chat. Join us next week. We try to do this every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Daylight Time at wildanimaltelevision.com. See you then.